Hello, this is Mike Suris from Dental Professional Labs and the CAD Plus Advanced Education Center in Maryville, Indiana. Welcome to Sirona's inLab Partial Framework webinar. Let's start off by talking about some of the requirements to run the IPF software. First of all, you need to have the INEOS X5 Intelligence Scanner, along with the inLab software version 4.25, 4.31, or software 15. Also a copy of the inLab Partial Framework and all the required licenses. So we have to start off by scanning into the inLab software, and then we can export it over. So let's open our inLab software, and we're already here at the administration page, and I've already gone ahead and scanned this just to save some time. But to start, we're going to select the upper and lower as a model, or you can select it as a restoration. I prefer to do it as a model, and in this case I am going to scan both the upper and the lower arches. So I select OK. It will forward into our scan. So here you can see our scan catalogs: the lower jaw, the upper jaw, and our buccal bite. At this point, when you're scanning, it's really important to watch what your model options are. It's important that you use complete reconstruction. In reduced reconstruction, you're going to lose the tongue area or the palate area and part of the base, which will give you incomplete data and affect your scanning. Now, people ask me, should I use capture area or capture reduced? Both work. It depends on what you want to do. I prefer to do capture reduce. I feel that the scans for partial dentures are more than adequate in resolution and accuracy in the capture reduce, and it's a little bit faster to run. So after all of our images are captured, we can arrow forward. Now that our models have been calculated, we could set them in the arch as we would with a crown and bridge case. We can also go into edit model. This is a good time to do this because we don't have all these functions in the IPF software. We can remove bubbles, adjust little areas, using the replace tool. So we'll check the upper and lower jaw and see if there's any areas that we feel may need to be edited. To me, this looks like it may be a void of some sort, so I'll take the replace tool, select apply, and that area is very easily edited. I can also add blockout in the IPF software. We also have the use of our add, smooth, and remove tools, as well as the cut tool. So if there's extra material there or areas that you don't feel you need and you want to remove them, you can cut those away. I am going to use the replace tool here to fill in this bubble, because it could be where a clasp tip ends up. Saves me a little bit of time of having to add wax. So I'm going to inspect my models real well, see if that's what I want. Check the lower jaw. So once again, we'll check our model axis, make sure everything is set. So now we're going to go up to our Start button and go over to this button that says Run Application. After we click Run Application, the Partial Frame software link will show, and once we click that, the Partial Frame software will automatically open. Now it's telling us you are trying to import both an upper and a lower jaw without an active jaw set. Do you want to use the upper jaw for your partial framework construction. If you press yes, the upper jaw will be used. If you press no, the lower jaw will be used. I'm going to select yes and start on my upper jaw. Later on I'll come back, select no, and do our lower jaw. So we select yes. Now, in being that we did the align models, or align the arch in the inLab software, the align model step is not required. We can click on it and it does show it in the arch, and if we want to zoom in and make it fit better, we can. It really has no effect on it. So I'm going to press OK. Now it wants me to define my insertion axis. This is the path of insertion where we will be using a surveyor in the traditional method to determine how the patient is going to put the partial in. Is it going to go in straight? Is the patient going to insert the partial in and go straight up? Are they going to insert it from the front back? Will they insert it from the back forward? Or will it have to go from one side or the other? As you can see, as we move the arrow, the undercuts are changed all around. So let's put it back to center and look where we started at. All right, so we'll go from there. Now after we press OK, the automatic blockout begins. Again, another huge time saver compared to the old method of applying wax, going back to the surveyor, and scraping off what we don't need. So what we're going to do here is inspect our blockout, see if we need to add any or remove any. So I'm going to use my form tool, select remove, and then simply remove the blockout from where I want my clasp tips, where I want my retention. So here, and I think I'm going to go over here with my roach clasp. At this time I can go and add blockout if I need more. Now if I feel I did it wrong or too much or too little, I can always go remove or undo. Nice thing is the undo button goes step by step. So let's go add again. I want to add it a little thinner, not so wide. Here we go. I have control over the size of the circle and the strength. I can also control the size of the circle with my right mouse button by clicking and holding and sliding forward and back with the right mouse button depressed. So after I check my block out and like what I have, I can arrow forward. And we go into the design element stage. In Sirona's IPF software, we do not have a set order of operation or an order that we have to put the parts onto the framework. We can put them in any order. We can start with our base plate or our retention or our clasp, or if we want to put our rests in first, we can do that. We can always back up. We can delete pieces. We can hide pieces. You have complete control of the system. So let's start by using our retentions, our grids, and with this it gives us again a lot of control. We can control the thickness, the lift, how far off the tissue do we want it or how much relief underneath, the hole size, how big of a hole do we want in our retention, do we want holes on the borders or do we want square holes or round holes. So I'm going to start simply by selecting a spot double clicking to begin, and drawing it like we would a manual margin. So I'm going to draw around here. Bring it up and double click to close it. Now you can see here we have round holes that are 1.5 millimeters in size. We have 0.6 lift, so if we zoom in, we can actually see that it is up off the tissue. I can control that if I want more or less. I told it it's okay to have holes on the border. We can change that simply by clicking off the check mark, click apply, and it makes a change. So whichever way you like it. Do you want square holes? Click that, apply, and there you have it. So we'll go with that. I like that. So we're going to tell it add grid. Now whatever settings I use on this side are automatically used on the next one. We can still change it and edit it, but it defaults back to what we used on the last step. Double click to close. Now if I don't like the shape or the size, we can edit it. We have drag line tools, which any area that's in yellow here, we can simply move it around. We can also use the edit line and edit it like we would a margin in the inLab software. So we double click in, redraw it, double click out. So I like what I have there, so we're going to say add grid. Alright, so the next step I want to do, using my tool wheel, I'm going to select base plate. So at any point I can begin simply by double clicking and begin drawing. And actually let's put a full base plate on this one. I'll bring it up into the interproximals of each of the teeth. When I get to the end, I simply double click to close it. And there we have our base plate. And again, we have complete control of what we want to do with it. Thickness. How thick do you want your base plate? Do you want a surface pattern? Do you want it stippled or not? You can drag the lines to edit them. Again, you can control the size of the area. If we like what we have there, we select add base plate and it creates our base plate. Now I really don't want to create a full metal pallet for the patient here. It's very heavy. What I'd like to do is create a circular partial frame, or as my college professor would call it, a toilet seat partial. So in order to do that, I'm going to come over here to display objects and I'm going to click on base plate and turn it off. Now I can still see the outline of it, but the base plate itself is gone. So using the same tool, the base plate tool, I'm going to create another one right on the inside of that one. So I'm going to come around here. And then double click to close it. When I do that, it's telling the system that I want that area open. So there you have it. Now I could look and say, well, I'm a lot thinner on this side than I am on this side. So I'm going to take this side using my edit line tool and pull it up a little bit more. Hopefully making the frame a little lighter, maybe a little more comfortable for the patient. So there we have it. Now you can see how the base plate automatically overlapped our retention to create a finish line on the inside. We have a little bit of a gap here, so I'm going to use that edit line tool and just pull it up a little bit higher here. There we go. So I like what I see there. So we're going to say add base plate, and there's our base plate. So looking at it, I'd like to pull this retention over here so I can simply back up. I don't have to erase anything or delete anything or hide anything. Simply pull this line here and pull my retention over. So we're going to go back and select add grid, add that side in. So what I want to do is I want to give cingulum rests on the cuspids here. And I also want to use a mesial rest on the bicuspids in order to counteract the forces of the free end saddles. So I'm going to select my tools for rest, and again giving us complete control. We can tell it how thick we want it. I like to make my rest about 1 millimeter thick. So I'm going to double click to start it. Come over, go through my base plate so they tie together. And there it is. Now I'm going to pull this line up just a little bit so everything flows. There we go. Again, select add rest. Do the same thing on the other side. Again, I can make them flow together a little bit better. Select add rest, and there's my rest. So now I need to add the mesial rest. Now I realize this model wasn't prepped for it. The doctor didn't prep. As you can tell, it's a type it on model. So we're going to add our rest in here. I'm going to go through this rest. And then when I close it, they should tie together and become one. So we're going to select add rest. And do the same thing on the other side. Double click to close it. I think, yeah, see it went down a little bit on the facial there, but I'm just going to go to edit line. Close it there. Make the correction. Let's smooth that out a little bit. Add rest. So from this point, let's add our clasp. So in our clasp tools, we have three choices. We have molar, premolar, and ring clasp. So I'm going to start with my premolar clasp, always starting on the thin end or on the retentive end. I'm going to place it where I want my clasp tip. Now as I roll over this area, if you look down in the lower left corner here, it tells us what the undercut measurement is. How deep of an undercut are we into? So let's go about 0.27, looks good. So I'm going to bring my clasp around here. And then I'm going to double click to stop. And it adds our clasp. So at this point I could always drag it and move it around to edit it. If I want to pull it deeper down so it doesn't bother the patient as much, I can do that. I can also control the thickness. If we come up here to edit profile, you see it adds this disc in. and I could change the size and the profile of the clasp with that. I can also add in more discs, and then it tells me that right here this clasp at the end is 1.71 millimeters by 1.71 millimeters. If I roll over to the other end, it's 1.2 millimeters. Now for a finished clasp, that's pretty good, but I like to make mine a little bit heavier for casting and polishing. So I'm going to click on it. If I click with my left mouse and slide forward, you can see it increases the size. Let me zoom in here. Now you can see with the left mouse button, it increases the thickness. Okay. With the right mouse button, it increases the width. Now, if I click with both mouse buttons at the same time and slide, it will do them both together. So I'm going to take this up to probably about 1.7. Now, it's a little bit thin here, so I'm 1.71 by 1.71. So over here I'm going to take this up probably about the 2 1/4, just to give me a nice taper and a little bit of metal to polish. So I'm going to select Add Clasp. Now, had I have done that clasp backwards and started from the thick end and gone forward, we do have the option up here to flip direction, so I could invert it. So if you click on it, you can see it just flips it around. And again, we'll just go Add Clasp, and there we have it. So now I need my reciprocal clasp. So I'm simply going to click on the small end where I want to start. Keep rotating around. Double click to close. Now again, it's going to come in thin. So I'm going to go to my edit profile. And by clicking on that ring and with both mouse buttons, I'm going to slide it up to where I'm at 1.7. You can see it increases the size on both ends. And I can come into edit profile, and just by sliding over, I could click here. It takes it down, but then I can increase it back up to 1.7 or 2.25 to match my other one. Simply select Add Clasp. So let's go do our clasp on the other side. On this side, we're going to do a roach clasp. And I think what I'm going to do is do a Y clasp. So again, I'm going to select my clasp tool. We're going to go with premolar. And I'm going to select my start point all the way to my end point. And it adds it in. Now, of course, it's smaller than larger than at that end. But we can edit that and change it to the shape that we like. So what I'm going to do is go back to, again, to Edit Profile. And this time, I've got one there. I'm going to put one ring here. And I'm going to put one in the center. Now, I'm going to increase this one here up to 1.5. I'm going to increase the other one to 1.5. And then the center one, I'm going to increase up to 2.0. So it gives me that tapered look, that Y look, with more strength in the center. So now if I go to drag line, I can always bring this and pull that center area down a little bit and give it more of a Y shape. So I'm going to go Add Clasp. Now the question is, how do I connect this to the retention area? So what I'm going to do is, we have another tool that's called Clasp Bar. Select that one, and what that does is it gives us lift underneath the arm to connect to the clasp, the roach clasp. So I'm going to pick my start point, come down, double click the end, take a look at it, see, put a little more lift. I can use the edit tools to reshape it. I can also use the edit profile to make this end heavier. So let's take this end up to 2.5 or 3. Let's go up to 3. Make it good and heavy. Ah, that's a bit much. Let's take it back down. Let's go to 2.5. This one's at 1.5, so we'll leave that there. I want to go to that drag line tool. Pull it a little to shape it. Get it where I like it. Select Add Clasp Bar, and there's our roach clasp. Of course, we still need our reciprocal. And actually, I think what I'm going to do, now that I started designing the case, I see some changes I want to make. So I deleted the clasp for the reciprocal here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to edit my base and take it up and put plating on the lingual of the teeth here. So we'll go Edit Line. Bring it around. Let it recalculate. Select Add Base Plate. Now, why didn't I just bring the plate over here instead of putting a rest? Well, the difference is the thickness of the metal. My rest here is 1 millimeter thick. This material here is only 0.7. So my rest, I like to have them a little bit thicker. So that's what I did. So now I'm going to click on the clasp here. And so I'm going to take the line and drag it so it connects. Select Add Clasp. And there it is. So on this side, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to double click on my base plate. Select Edit Line. Now I'm going to use the edit line again. Pull this down and over. This one looks a little bit high up to me, so we're going to come here and edit. Select Add Base Plate to close it. So here I want to add a little bit of support for my clasp. So I'm going to go ahead and add a connector. I'm going to click the begin. I'm going to pull it over here. I think it's too far towards the facial, so let's go to Edit line. Now with the connectors, we have the option of controlling the angle or the inclination of them. Right here, this one's at 75%, so we're going to increase the inclination to 100%. Select Apply. And you can see how it increased the angle there. So if I take it back, and let's take it down to 21, select Apply. So you see how it closed it in. So I'm going to take this one back up to 75%. Select Apply. Then Add Connector. You can see we added a little support there. So now we have two free end saddles, so we need tissue stops or tilt stops. So we're going to select that, select where we want them, double click to begin, draw them to the size and shape that we like, add tilt stop. Let's put another one on the other side. Again, add tilt stop. Now the last thing we really need is our finish lines. I'm going to select where I want them to begin. Double click to close it. Again, we can edit these and move them. We can also use that same tool, Edit Profile, to make some changes. So you see here it has an arrow on it instead of just being a disc. With that arrow, it allows us to move it. So by using the right mouse button, I can change the angulation of that finish line. So if I put another one here, and then move this one, and I can move the other one the other way, and give it a little better flow. Now if I take the left mouse button and pull, I could actually taper the ends of it. Get it where I like it, select Add Finish Line. I'm going to go add one to the other side. Same process. Let's go to Edit Profile. Let's open it up a little bit. Shrink. Let's add another disc here first. Then we'll shrink it down and taper it. Add a disc. Taper the end here. Add finishing line. And there we have it. So now we have our finish lines done. So once we have all of our elements in place, we can simply arrow forward and go into the finalizing step. Once I click Finalize, the system combines all the elements together. If there was some part that was not connected correctly, it would give us a warning and the part would show up in red. So at this point, what I like to do is I'll take my smooth tool and begin taking out any creases that might be in it, any little defects I don't like, just smoothing things up. Usually right here along the finish line, I'll smooth it out just to reduce the amount of finishing that I have in the metal. Just smoothing. Do the same thing on the other side. Now you want to be careful when you smooth because you can make areas too thin also. So if you see a few spots where I wish I had added or changed, I could always back up and change it, but now all the things that I've done with a smoothing tool would be lost. So I'm going to come back to my tool wheel and select this tool, Add Material. And it gives us a ball shape here, and we can make it larger and smaller. So I'm going to bring it right in here, make it a little bit larger, and double click, and it adds a ball of material or a drop of material. So I'll put another one here. Now what I can do is take my smooth tool again and simply smooth it in and continue that finish line up. Add some support in here in the corners. And take the smoothing tool. Just add a little support. I look at it and I say that's all pretty and shiny, but do it probably should have had some stippling here. So now if I go back to my form tools, we have remove, add, and smooth, but we also have add surface pattern. So I could come in here and simply add in where I want stippling. So once I have it right where I like it, select apply, and it adds the texturing in. We also have the tool for check thickness, which allows us to see where we're too thin. Like here on my rest, that's an issue there. Again, here I got a thin spot. Now, the nice thing is with this tool, wherever you point at, it tells you down in the corner here exactly what the thickness is. So I can come up here and look. 0.25, I'm too thin for a rest there. If I have it printed in wax or printed in metal, we could have issues there. So I need to go back to my form tools. Let's go to the add. Now if we go back to our check thickness, now we're green instead of red in there. So now I got enough there for casting or printing. Same thing on this side. Let's go to our add tool, add some in here. Might go with my add material tool here and now lightly smooth. Check our thickness again. Still a little bit thin, but let's add some more. Now we're thick enough. Last tool we have, if I'm going to have this printed in wax, I have to worry about it flexing or warping because it's not sitting on a refractory model. So I'm going to add a support tube here, from here to here. So when it prints up in plastic or wax, it gives it a little bit of rigidity. I can also go from this tube here So our final step is to export the partial framework. It does export as an STL file. So let's call it the webinar max for maxillary. Press save. So here's our maxillary STL. And there's our framework in STL format. So rotate it around and look at it. See, we have nice finish lines on the inside. At this point, we could ship this case out to a manufacturer, either for wax printing, metal printing, or perhaps you have an in-house printer you'd like to use on your own. So with the little bit of time we have left, I'd like to go over how we would do a mandibular partial, mainly the lingual bar and maybe a few other tools that we haven't had a chance to hit on yet. So we're going to go back to our inLab software. Again, go to the top, click on Run Application. Select our Partial Framework 15 icon. And again, it's going to ask us, or tell us, you're trying to use or trying to import both an upper and lower jaw without an active jaw set. Do you want to use the upper jaw for your partial framework construction? If you press yes, the upper jaw will be used. If you press no, the lower jaw will be used. So we want to use the lower, so we're going to select no. And it opens up to our lower jaw. So we already did the align models in the inLab software, so we're going to go straight to define insertion axis. So we can rotate it around, check our undercuts. I'm going to adjust it a little bit. You can also use a joystick over here if that's easier for you than grabbing the arrow. It's your preference. So we're going to select OK. The software applies the block out for us. So we're going to use our form tool, select remove. And again, we're going to remove the block out from where we want our clasp tips at.
So I'd like mine to end up right in this area here. Do the same thing on the opposite side. I want to add a little block out where my lingual bar is going to go, so we have a little bit of relief. And from that point, we're ready to move forward. I'm going to start with my grids. Again, that's just my personal preference. I like to start with a grid, but you can start with any tool you want. If you want to do your clasps first, do the clasps. Lingual bar first, do that. Again, we have control of thickness, lift, hole size, holes on the borders, square holes, however we want to do it. So I'm going to come over here and drag the line up a little bit closer here. Add the grid, do the one on the opposite side. Add the grid. So now with our lingual bar, we can set the thickness of the lingual bar. And we don't have to draw the entire outline of it. We could just draw a single line where we want the middle of the bar to be. Double click the end. And you can see it created the bar for us. I can still go in with my edit line tool and flare to the ends a little bit more. So once I have it set, I'm going to select Add Lingual Bar. So now I need to add some rest. This one was prepped for mesial rest. And it'll come clear over onto the cingulum of the cuspids. Double click the end. Now it's set at 0.75, but I'm going to thicken it up again to 1 millimeter. Select Apply and add rest. Do the same thing on the other side. And again, add rest. Now this one I think comes up a little bit high, so I'm going to reactivate it, edit line, bring it down a little bit. So there we have our rest. So now let's put some clasp on these bicuspids. So we're going to select ring clasp. And again, if I watch down the lower left corner, it shows me what my undercut is. So let's see where I like it at. 0.27. So I'm going to bring it up. Double click the end. So I'm going to go to edit line. Smooth it out, give it more of a flowing look. Edit profile. We're already at 1.5 millimeters there, so we'll leave that one there. Add clasp. Do the opposite side the same way. One 1.5 millimeters on our clasp tip, so we'll add the clasp. Add in our tilt stops. So the other tools we have, other options we have available are our retention pins. So we're able to actually place retention pins wherever we like to line up with the teeth for better support. Now once we add them, we can always go in and click on them, and then we can move them however we want. We can also adjust the diameter of the tip, making it larger or smaller, the height, and the base width. Again, a nice tool. You have complete control over placement, size, even the angle can be changed. So the last thing we need to do with this partial frame is add some finish lines. Select finish line again. Add the finish line. Arrow forward. Combine the elements. So we can go through with our smooth tool again. Take out any creases. Or seams. Let's add a support tube in for printing. Go to export partial. And this case is done and ready to be sent out or sent for manufacturing through whatever process you prefer. So this is the end of the IPF webinar. And in conclusion, please keep in mind that the software is optimized for the INEOS X5 intelligent robotic scanner. It does work with inLab versions 4.25, 4.31, or software 15. The IPF download is available at inlab.com/support. You also need a license to do STL exports, but no export key is needed to send cases to Infinident. Scanning and export or import into the IPF software is done from the inLab software. You have easy to use prep tools for passive insertion and blockout. There's no order of operation, so you can add and edit elements as you want to do it. Complete control of design elements, size, shape, thickness, lift, etc. Finalization tools are available to smooth, add, remove, add texture, add support, and check the thicknesses. The Open STL export allows you to send your files to whomever you want. There are no restrictions. And support is available, as always, from Patterson Technical Center, PTC, at 800-475-5036. On behalf of Sirona Dental and your inLab team and myself, thank you for watching and have a great day.